I think prayer is essential as breathing, as eating. It's something we need to do to survive, to live, to get in touch with the source of all life. And that's essential for all of us, but yes, particularly for pioneers too, as they're seeking God's will, as they're trying to listen and keep in touch with God for that strength and energy and direction. Some of the difficulties I think people find in praying are finding a regular time and place and getting into a rhythm, and some of it is adopting a discipline of prayer and making that resolution to do it, and some of it is exploring different ways of praying and ways that work for you. Different personality types appreciate different forms of prayer and different learning types. Some people are more kinesthetic, and so more creative forms of prayer involving writing or doing something can help them. For others, more contemplative forms of prayer are helpful. And for others, it's meeting with somebody else and making that commitment to be at a certain time and a certain place to pray can be the thing which gives them that edge. I think, looking at the past, people like St. Ignatius of Loyola, he was pioneering new forms of mission, reaching different cultures, and he invented more imaginative forms of prayer, which help reviewing the day and getting yourself inside a Bible story and applying it to your situation. So things like that can really help us using our imagination. And also actually just finding out all the different types of prayer. I know a few years back in Visions, when we realised we were pretty bad at prayer, we looked at things like Ignatian prayer, about the things that more traditional churches were doing, about more creative Anglican prayer groups, what they were doing, and just each week tried a different form of prayer until we found which ones clicked with us. And that, for some people, was quite a revelation. There was one person who discovered writing letters to God and had found real difficulty in prayer up until that point. But once they actually put pen to paper and realised they could use writing as a method of prayer, that the prayers poured out of them and it revolutionised their prayer life. It is quite important to have a rhythm in your prayer that works for you. A rhythm of life, a rhythm of prayer, a commitment to be praying at certain times and in certain places. And different groups do it in different ways. The 24/7 group has launched prayer at noon every day, praying the Lord's Prayer at noon every day, and making that commitment by putting an alarm on a phone. Other people, like here, we have prayer at 9:45 every day, which is spoken prayer in a small chapel, but we also have evensong every day at 5:30, which people can either access in a traditional way by listening to the music and standing and sitting in the appropriate points and making the responses, or they can access it in a more informal way, but by just lying back and letting the music wash over them and praying their own prayers and thoughts. So there's all sorts of different ways to make that rhythm in your life and make that appointment in your diary. Meeting with a friend can help a lot, and finding somebody who prays in a similar way to you and making that connection. There are times when we all struggle with prayer, and knowing that is going to happen, that is a normal part of your spiritual development, can be really helpful. So reading the spiritual classics and how other people got through those dark moments can be a real inspiration. And just knowing that although it appears that God isn't listening, God is listening, and we don't always have to feel God's presence in a really dramatic way for God to be there. So discipline is part of it, but also knowing that others have been on this journey too, and that they are supported in prayer by others. When you're working with people who maybe haven't prayed before or don't know how to pray and just want to start to pray, I think having workshops on prayer or a specific slot where you try different forms of prayer and explore prayer together can be really helpful. Often Bible readings and passages of the gospel can be a really good springboard to that. And also the Lord's Prayer can be too, using it in many different ways. It's vaguely familiar to a lot of people from a number of things, perhaps their school or a carol service or something else. So it isn't totally unfamiliar. And that can be a good springboard too, to use it in different ways, to explore it creatively, perhaps to use art with it, to insert our own petitions for our own situations into it, and to also explore more meditative forms of prayer. Meditation as a word is a very non-threatening word, and using the scriptures in a meditative way can also be a good springboard to a life of prayer. I think one simple tip for getting going on an adventure of prayer is have a look at the Psalms, have a look at the way Jesus prayed, and then use that as a springboard to your own prayer. But also, actually, if you find you're suddenly stuck in a rut in prayer and one form of prayer isn't working, switch to something completely different for a while and try something new that maybe will bring a freshness to your prayer life that you haven't had before.